To my soul tribe, my name is Miriam Rose. If you like this video, please make sure to subscribe, set your bell on all, like, comment and share, as I really appreciate all of your support. Now let's get on with the video. My dearest brothers and sisters, this is Hakann speaking. Today I would like to discuss the patriarchy. I also would like to discuss the belief in the chief pattern. Most people don't even realize this pattern exists. Yet it is absolutely critical to be aware of it if you want to understand why the world is as it is. The message will be a bit heavy and it will discuss SA. So if you don't want to hear about it, it's best to skip this message. The patriarchy. After the fall of Atlantis, Earth humans spent a lot of time living in primitive tribes. Almost certainly you have ancestral memories and unresolved ancestral emotions from that time too. Those primitive tribes were often led by one or a few chiefs. Unfortunately, often these chiefs were negative galactics who either led the tribe in their own form or in a human form. Even if these tribes were led by humans, then often these chiefs listened to the whisperings of negative galactics that they should dominate and they should take whatever they want. In other cases, good-hearted human chiefs were literally possessed or replaced by negative galactics. Some of you may have ancestral memories of your tribal chief who suddenly started behaving in a dark way. Or if a chief could not be easily corrupted or possessed, often his or her tribe was simply conquered and taken over through tribal warfare. Hence, in a lot of cases, primitive tribes were either directly led by negative galactics, either in their own form or in a human form, or they were led by a human who was heavily influenced or controlled by a negative galactic. In a lot of cases, these negative galactics were unevolved reptilians. Now, a minority of reptilians are evolved and kind-hearted, such as Hakann, who has shared messages via this channeling in the past. However, the average reptilian is unevolved, and these beings just take whatever they want, including sexually. Reptilians see women as nothing more than walking vaginas and walking wombs, and they feel that women should be owned and treated as property. They feel that virginity and youth and beauty and obedience are the only things that matter in women. In their minds, there are no female qualities other than virginity and youth and beauty and obedience. Reptilians feel that it is good for society when so-called owners, meaning them, use their women's whatever they want in whichever way they want. Reptilians feel that empowered women, or even women who say more words than yes sir, can cause the downfall of society and the downfall of powerful men. Hence, reptilians feel that it is good for society that owners regularly use physical and SA to keep women down, not just when women so-called misbehave, but also preventatively. Of course, none of these things are actually true. I'm just saying that this is how unevolved reptilians view the world. Also, often a male reptilian is expected to SA a woman as part of his coming-of-age process. If he refuses, he never becomes a man, which usually leads to some powerful reptilian enslaving him. Needless to say, this patriarchy was utterly traumatic for human women. My sisters, I'm so sorry this awful stuff happened to you. You didn't deserve any of this, frankly. Even though I didn't make this retreat decision, I still feel some amount of shame that after the fall of Atlantis, us positive galactics more or less retreated and just let this happen. It is understandable that women even today haven't dealt with the ancestral trauma of the patriarchy, and hence it is understandable that even today women speak out against the patriarchy. However, it is important to realize what the patriarchy actually is. Despite what your dictionaries may say, the patriarchy is mostly reptilian men, plus a few human men, essaying women and keeping women down over a period of millennia. Back in the day of primitive tribes. That is the experience that is causing the emotional reaction, the hostility towards the patriarchy, and sometimes visceral hostility to men in positions of power. So long as the people think that the patriarchy is women in 2023 being subtly discriminated against, or not paid enough, or not taken seriously, or kept out of positions of power, then they will never get over the trauma of the actual patriarchy. However, to get over a trauma, you need to look it squarely in the eyes. If people don't even realize what's causing them emotional pain, then they will never get over that pain. Instead of people dealing with the trauma of the actual patriarchy, we see people trying to fix this imaginary in 2023 patriarchy by, for example, introducing women-only quotas. First of all, that actually deeply hurts men. And second, even if you create a situation where more women go to university, more women are CEOs, and women earn more on average than men, even then, the patriarchy wound will still be bleeding and unconscious people will still demand yet more measures against the patriarchy, because their trauma of the actual primitive tribe patriarchy will not be resolved unless people face it directly. No amount of women-only quotas is a substitute for people observing their ancestral pain of being controlled, essayed, kept down, and being powerless about that. So how do you face that pain directly? Well, if you don't feel any particular pain or resistance with regards to men being in positions of power or women being oppressed, then you don't necessarily need to do anything. If you do feel that, you can think or say, I wish to observe my trauma surrounding men abusing their power and my trauma surrounding women being oppressed. Then observe whatever comes up. If nothing comes up, do more general spiritual work first, and then maybe repeat that sentence a bit later. To be clear, in some cases women in today's age really are treated poorly, but well, average men are also treated poorly in different ways. From my perspective, women and men are both treated poorly, and the solution isn't female-only scholarships or female-only quotas. The solution is for women and men to come together and build a better society for everyone. Fortunately, the actual patriarchy is over. Reptilians are no longer structurally saying and owning women and keeping down and discriminating against them as they did during the days of primitive tribes. So if you feel strong emotions when you think about female oppression or about the patriarchy or about women being discriminated against, then it can be good to sit down and observe that internal pain rather than try to change the external world. Healing yourself first and trying to change the external world second is nearly always the wiser way of doing things. How the patriarchy affects dating today. If you are a woman and you find yourself being attracted to psychopaths or criminals or controlling or destructive or self-destructive men, then that too can be a relic of the unresolved and unintegrated experience of being controlled by reptilians for millennia. After all, during those times you were controlled by and regularly had sex with men who were psychopaths, criminals, controllers, destructive or self-destructive. You may have some Stockholm-like syndrome from that, or you may simply unconsciously wish to repeat your trauma as trauma victims often do, in the hope of finding resolution. This repeat the trauma in the hope of finding resolution pattern often looks like this. The woman finds a man who is dangerous, wild, unstable, a criminal, self-destructive, or something like that, and she dates him and tries to turn him into a non-destructive man who respects her in the unconscious hope of fixing the trauma that is, in ancestral times, a destructive man owned her and didn't respect her. However, tragically, this very often only leads to further pain. There is a good chance that the destructive man keeps being destructive and that she gets hurt in the process. And even if she succeeds in turning this man into a non-destructive man, it's quite possible that this doesn't resolve her trauma because she still hasn't actually observed her ancestral pain, and so she dumps the now non-destructive man, finds another destructive man, and begins the cycle all over again. This is why men sometimes complain that their girlfriend first convinces them to discard all their wild and slightly dangerous and slightly self-destructive edges, and then the girlfriend loses interest and dumps him. If you are a woman, your unresolved pain may manifest as you wanting to be with a destructive or controlling man. However, being with such men is not the actual solution. The actual solution is sitting down and observing your old pain, which includes your own unresolved ancestral trauma of being controlled by such men. If you feel resentment or hostility towards men, the solution may very well be dealing with the pain of this period of patriarchy during primitive times. So if you find yourself attracted to controlling or psychopathic or destructive or self-destructive people, then you may want to work on that. The stereotype here is a woman going for a bad boy, but there are also men who are drawn to controlling or unstable women, which again may very well be unresolved trauma from ancient times. Non-Earth humans don't find those to be attractive qualities in women. The believed chief pattern goes like this. Primitive chiefs, whether whether they were literally reptilians or strongly influenced by reptilians, didn't only feel that it was good for society to keep women down. They also felt that it was good for society if the strong have the right to be served and obeyed by the weak humans. Even if the weak merely disagree with them, they see that as sort of a crime against the natural order, in the same way that humans have an ick reaction if they think about a parent having intercourse with their child or a sister having intercourse with her biological brother. Unevolved reptilians have a similar reaction of disgust at the thought of having a weak human disagreeing with them. So if a human did, that human was often tortured, unalived or exiled. At times their families faced a similar fate. Hence most people have been brutally conditioned that they should simply believe what authority figures say and not think whether that's true or false, because thinking critically is literally dangerous for themselves and for their family members. This also meant that if your friend or family member said something that ran counter to what the leaders said, that the best thing you can do for them is convince them to adopt the worldview of the leaders instead. Again, it is not about who is right. It is about that your friend or family member and their family will be beaten, unalived or exiled if they disagree with the leaders. Or if you can't convince your friend or family member to change their worldview, then the best thing you can do for them is to try to silence and censor them so that no one finds out that they disagree with the leaders and thus they won't be beaten, etc. This pattern still goes on today. Of course it does, because the vast majority of Earth humans don't even realize that this pattern exists. How can Earth humans evolve beyond something that they are not even aware of? And so, even today, people try to tell their friends and family and other people to ditch the worldview of their leaders, which today is the worldview of their governments and the media. Or if they can't convince them, they try to get those people censored or deplatformed. Because after all, that is how you help that person and their family to remain safe. This is why messages that run counter to what the government says are often described as dangerous or harmful, or as you can't say that, as it is dangerous, or if objectively speaking the message isn't actually harmful and there is not really a significant chance that people will pass. And even if there is a risk that someone could pass, then that's actually a lot less strong of an argument than it sounds like, because every single day people pass in traffic accidents, and yet no one says we should ban cars, otherwise people might pass. In these cases, it's not so much about the actual risk of the message itself. It's more that the ancestral memories are invoked that if people disagree with their leaders, then they and possibly their loved ones may get brutalized or unalived. You may notice that if you sit down with an unawake friend or family member and point out lies of the government or the media, or point out things that don't make sense in the official narrative, that you often literally get a fear reaction. They are often not rationally considering your words. If they were, they would ask for more information or sources. They would do their own research, or they would present rational counter arguments. Instead, they often have fear reactions, and either they reply with a regurgitated thought-terminating talking point, or they just simply cut you off, even though you would think that if their friend or family member had a different worldview from them, that this would be worth actually discussing. Instead, you don't get a discussion and you get a fear reaction instead. So where does this fear come from? It comes from the ancestral memories of them not believing the chief and being horribly punished as a result. Hence the fear reaction when you say something that contradicts the chief, in this case government and media. In a way, the average person who still trusts the government in today's day and age is more or less in an abusive relationship with the government, in the sense that they do what the government says, even though often this is not good for them. Note that there is often no real love there. The way we can help ourselves is to contribute through raising our level of consciousness, which automatically uplifts the collective subconscious, which will go against such systems as believing the chiefs, and it will be more viable and appealing to the average person to contribute through raising your level of consciousness. So if you want to fix politics, you will need to meditate. Many Earth humans are being incredibly courageous and are either standing up to corrupt authorities or are indeed going inwards and finding their inner light. Despite the chaos all around, things on Earth are actually moving in the right direction. I know it may not seem like that, and I empathize with your suffering, but the consciousness of Earth humans is a critical variable and it keeps rising. My biggest hope today is that once humans understand the belief, the chief pattern, it stops having as much power over humanity as it currently does. Because from my point of view, this unresolved ancestral trauma has done more than enough damage already. Your star brother, Hakann. Well, I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it, some pearls of wisdom. And if you enjoy celebrity news, please visit my other channel called Miriam Rose. With absolute gratitude, love and light, cosmic kisses to everyone. Till next time, bye for now.